Primer on Something About Occupy. Audio Review Number 3 by Patrick O'Dowd. This primer must begin with a story of its own. Once I raised my hand in class. In complete disregard to the ongoing conversation, I began to throw out some metaphor, most likely having to do with space, time, existential nothingness. It made sense to me. Quietly to my left, my fellow classmate Ellen sighed. Oh, here we go. This struck me as appropriate. I now feel it is equally appropriate for this essay. Oh, here we go. There are few answers to be found here. For a while now, I have been setting out to write about the much discussed Occupy Wall Street movement. I have written here and there little bits, no more than notes, about my impressions of it at any given moment. I have cautiously spied local iterations of the group, half-heartedly observing it from a block or so away, not interested in engaging with it here, on a street level. I have discussed it with friends, some who see it as a force for good, others who see it as a reaction of the entitled youth, or just entitled do-nothings. I myself have seen it in various lights, as well-intentioned but ultimately unimportant as the next great movement of the left, as desperately doomed, ill-conceived. I have read every other article from my favorite writers, journalists, politicians, attempting to triangulate my position a bit better. A part of me figured my uncharacteristic lack of opinion was simply due to having not read enough about it. Yet, the more I read, the more I tried to impose some order on this movement, the more my opinions shifted their legs. And then I realized something. The problem wasn't my inability to find the solid ground of an opinion. It was the ground itself quaking. The cacophonous rattling and shouting from directions left and right sent my mind reeling. I had never experienced a real earthquake, but what was happening now seemed reminiscent of those stories from those who had lived through them. That ominous onset of the rumble, slowly gaining power, resonating through the ground, the walls, a sense of panic that there is nowhere you can run to find the steady safety of solid ground. I ran regardless. My essay began and ended as something about Occupy Wall Street. In the middle is something almost as messy as life. I set out for answers that could pin the movement down, define it. What I wrote are the questions that led me on a recursive roller coaster of a ride. The train never stopped, so I leapt on at some finite point on its infinite trip and hung on for the journey. It turns out all the greats were there. Thoreau, Fitzgerald, Kerouac, Melville, Johnny Depp as Hunter S. Thompson, and Dennis Hopper. The product is something closely resembling the horrors I face in my mind from dawn to dusk. So here I was, trying to write some obnoxiously long essay, ostensibly about Occupy Wall Street, essentially having some sort of weird, quarter-life crisis that had left much of my worldview in pieces like a broken plate, and I wasn't even halfway through writing the damn thing. Fortunately, or maybe at the rate I was going, unfortunately, being left in pieces is a pretty good starting point for an essay itself. When I started writing what was originally going to be my essay, I could only get down random thoughts, loosely connected at best. In an attempt to give myself some goal, I attempted to write at the top of the page, Occupy Wall Street is... ... I couldn't finish the sentence. In its place, I wrote the first thought that popped in my mind. I am searching. I then began expanding that one thought, and that led to this. Well, the next thing I knew, all I had to do was lean back and relax my soul and roll on, as Kerouac says. I'd reached the moment when it was time to go beat or go home. Suddenly everything was upside down. The problem was, I'd been on a kick of the doors after reading Joan Didion's essay The White Album, which had led me down a rat hole of its own, leading me to cue up Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now, which, all things being equal, wasn't an entirely inappropriate choice given the search at hand, trying to make sense of it all, and what have you. But I was hardly on the right track, and I was certainly in a place I would not have been otherwise. My goal for this essay was to show the middle. I couldn't help but to make a few claims about Occupy at the end, but this essay isn't about that. What Occupy Wall Street is and what it means are not the point. The point is what Occupy Wall Street is to you, and the meaning you derive from it. For me, Occupy Wall Street turned out to be Thoreau, Fitzgerald, Melville, never ceasing to ask questions and following them wherever they took you, even if it means seeking enlightened union with the beach while watching Apocalypse Now. Occupy Wall Street is allowing the clarion call of some paramount consideration of your own individuality to prevail over the noise. It's not about writing an essay either. It is about what's between your ears. I found my plans for this essay equally going by the wayside.
This is a very ominous assignment, with overtones of extreme personal danger.
No amount of course correction was going to get me back on my original track at this point. Once you get locked into a good line of questions, the tendency is to push it as far as you can, and that's what I did. I had raised too many questions to allow myself to turn back now. Call me Ahab, and this essay, my albatross. It is about questions, searching, running, falling, thought, and you. The only thing finite about us is the time we have to assemble our own amalgamation of experiences. There is the same old nothingness, and there is you. Or as Dennis Hopper said,
I mean, what are they gonna say, man, when he's gone, huh? Because he dies. When it dies, man. When it dies, he dies. What are they gonna say about him? What are they gonna say? He was a kind man. He was a wise man. He had plans. He had wisdom. Bullshit, man. Am I gonna be the one that's gonna set them straight? Look at me, wrong. You.
I have no doubt that in my goal I bit off more than I could chew. However, the message of this essay, I hope, is to always bite off more than you can chew, to just keep on gnawing with the hope you don't choke. Further, the message of this essay stylistically is to have fun. I wanted to have fun writing this essay, so I made it fun.
This is the end, my only friend.
Finally, I know the question you're nervously mumbling under your breath.
What's in the barn?
No, not that question, but close. What am I about to read? Well, let's just say something just shy of the next great American whatever.
I'll never look into your